Actions that make life difficult. My friend changed college for a girl and moved to her city, which was 10 hours away. She left him 2 weeks later. He did not succeed in returning to college in his city. So I had to study away from home for all 4 years, renting an apartment. Yes, and this college is SOSO in terms of prestige, at that time the 70th in the ranking in the United States and the 3rd in the state. A friend decided to quit 6 months before the end of the contract. Since the company paid for the move, she owed $10,000. She hoped that in a new place she would get a well-paid job and immediately repay the debt, but it did not grow together. As a result, she dealt with this debt for another 5 years. But only 6 months remained to be finalized, and the work was not dusty. My parents divorced 13 years ago, and my mother sued my father's house. The mortgage had only 2 years to pay. Instead of working this time, Mom sells the house and retires at 47. Now she is forced to rent an apartment in a council house for the poor, and I have to constantly help her with money. Really, it was impossible to finalize these 2 years? Then this house could be inherited by my brother and me. And so there is no house, and the money is gone like water in the sand. Some members of our family regularly carry things from my grandmother's house. She is 94 years old, but lives alone in her house. She perfectly understands what is happening, but just starts talking about it. Everyone accuses her of being crazy, so she doesn't bring up this topic anymore. By the way, some people felt ashamed, and some things miraculously returned to their place. My aunt owned a large pharmacy. Once, drunk, I sold prescription drugs past the cash register, and someone reported this to the police. In her defense, the aunt said that she herself was sick and took medicine for herself, although she was not sick. The story was blown up by the local newspaper, completely ruining my aunt's reputation. And then her license was taken away, and she had to sell the business. My school friend received a grant to study at one of the most prestigious universities. At school, at the graduation, he swelled up, and in this form he drove home in a car. We dissuaded him, and even tried to take away the keys, but it was all useless. As a result, after a mile, he moved into a ditch, hitting a tree. It seems that everything worked out, but in the fall, instead of uni, he goes to a rehabilitation center. Whether this grant will be given to him next year, no one knows. My mother is 70 years old, and she lives on one pension. Fraudsters on the internet bred her for $6,000. I told her not to give them her credit card number, but she was sure that she had actually won $500,000 in the electronic lottery. She dealt with this debt for several years. Our van had a fuel line leak. Dad did not have a suitable metal tube, and he screwed on a piece of garden hose. The next day, the van burned down before our eyes. A friend of our family lost $250,000 in a casino. He had to sell a posh house and move into a cramped apartment. His wife left him. He was depressed for a long time, then returned to work. He is a landscape designer and worked in a firm in a senior position. Now he was hired as an ordinary worker for $15 an hour. And in the evenings he thumps. He says that this is somehow holding him back from going to the casino.